Hey YouTube, I want to do a quick review today of the Ferris Z2 52-inch cut. I did a video last week. I demoed the Ferris Z3X, and I wanted to kind of do a little bit of comparison video, talk about some things I liked about this machine, some things maybe I didn't, just to give you guys a better idea. You know, if you're looking for a machine to purchase. By the way, I did say in my last video that the Z3X, I was really wishing they were going to make that in a 52-inch cut, right? Because the 61 for my yards, some of the small ones, they just seemed a little bit, the 61 was just a little bit too big. I struggled to get around some trees and stuff. I mean, it was really nice, but I think for me, the 52 is a perfect ticket for the yards that I got. So I talked to my dealer today, and they said, the rumor is Ferris is coming out with the Z3X in a 52-inch cut. So keep that in mind if you're looking for a machine to buy like I am. So let's just jump into it, guys. The first thing I noticed when I took this machine was the front end. This machine does not have the pivoting arms like the Z3 does. It made a pretty big difference. Those pivoting arms in the front and the Z3 were huge. Like I said, some of the yards I have some really big craters and stuff in them, and it just makes, when it has the pivoting front end, it just makes it so much easier and smoother to navigate. So that's something that I did not really care for about this machine. The next thing was, since I'm looking at it, I guess it'd be this roller in the front. So if you look at the Z3X, it has two wheels there instead of the big front roller. I'm a bigger fan of the front wheels just because when this yard was striping, I could tell specifically that roller was making a small indentation in my stripes. Wasn't too bad to complain or anything, but you know, just something to mention. The next thing to talk about, when I picked this up from the dealer, I was wondering why they had this bungeed around here. I was just curious at first. I didn't ask him, didn't talk to him about it. I just took it and left. But when I was on this mower, I was mowing my yards, man. I didn't have this issue on the Z3, but this whole thing was moving around quite a bit. I mean, you can see the play in it right there. You know, when you're going fast and you hit some big holes, that thing really jars. So my concern with that is over time, you know, is that thing going to wear out, or like what's going to happen with that? So that's one thing that, you know, I am concerned with. The engine on this is, again, the Vanguard EFI, 28 horsepower. This motor was nothing like the 37, but it has more than enough power for what I was doing. The 37, you could just see a lot more top end speed, and then you could just feel the power. This definitely gets the job done. I'm not saying this is underpowered by any means. It's just hard to go from a 37 to a 28. One thing I did notice on this machine, the deck adjustment was a lot easier to manipulate. So when you were raising the deck, it was like it weighed a lot less. This pin, just easily, I noticed on the Z3, it kind of had some retention on it. I think it's because of this little thing at the bottom. I don't know if it fell out or whatever. They just didn't put it in here. But this just falls in and out. And I don't like that, and I'll tell you why. It's because when I was mowing with this machine and I was hitting holes, you know, when I was mowing at full speed, this whole adjustment would jog and bounce. And my fear was, man, if you hit a big enough hole, this whole thing might pop out. Or if it comes out of the bottom hole, you know, it might adjust in a way that it could affect your cut quality. So that's not something I was a fan of. The next thing I wasn't a huge fan of were the tires. These are big tires if you look at most other machines. However, the Z3 tires are way bigger. And the biggest issue I noticed was one with hills, obviously. It wasn't as stable on hills as the Z3. The front end wanted to pop up a little bit. Now, not that it was a huge deal, but the front end would not pop up on the Z3. So that's something to consider. Also, the main thing that I noticed with these tires, it was when I was turning on a lawn, I had trouble actually making traction, gripping, and turning without the wheel wanting to spin. The wheel just wanted to spin and it kind of tore up the turf a little bit. With the bigger tires on the Z3, I really didn't have that issue. So just something to think about as well. One thing I did notice about this machine is the hydros, right? So on the Z3, the hydros were, I'm going to say, a lot more stable at high-end speeds, okay? So you could maneuver the machine. It wasn't, what I'm trying to say is it wasn't so touchy when you got into top-end speeds, okay? This thing is kind of the exact opposite. It's super touchy when you get into high-end speeds. If you move the handles at all, this machine's going to go. So it's kind of opposite. So where this machine benefited was with the smaller yards where I had tight spaces. The controls are really touchy, and I can maneuver very quick and efficiently. On the Z3, they weren't so touchy at lower speeds, so it took a little bit more handwork to get the machine to move and go around. So that's one thing I definitely did notice between the machines was the transaxles were set up a little bit differently. I don't know. I guess it's a moot point really, but if you just had small yards, this machine would be better for you, I think. If you are mowing bigger areas, the Z3 would obviously, because you can go, wide open and it's not gonna go crazy on you. One thing I did mention on the Z3 was the brake. I said that this felt kind of unstable and loose. Well, guess what happened, guys? It did come off on this model. So that's something Ferris should look at. I figured it would on the Z3. It didn't feel too stable as well. And this one, when I was trying to pull it up, I pulled the lever up and the whole thing just came off with it. I don't think that should happen on a new machine, just my opinion. Also, another difference between the Z3 and the Z2 was the cruise control. This has 3 different settings here, where the Z3 had 4, which not a huge deal, but having 4 was nicer because you could tone in a little bit better exactly how you like the machine. The controls are about the same, guys. This gas tank right here, the fuel gauge, is much harder to see on this machine than it was the other one. PTO is the same. What's nice about this machine, like I said before, was you can step off the platform and the blades will disengage, and then when you jump back on, you can just hit this very, very lightly and the blades engage again. Turn key right there, throttle, all that good stuff. I'd say this handle is still kind of cheap, like I said on the last review for the Z3. One thing I did notice about these machines is the Z3 is a lot more comfortable. Seems like it had a lot more, just a smoother and better ride. The Z2 is not bad by any means. It's just the quality. It's just not as firm and as plush as the other Z3 unit that I tested out. Same kind of setup as the Z3. Fuel tanks underneath there. You can adjust the shock as well if you want to. So guys, I want to do this video to give you a better idea of what you should do and what you should spend your money on. This machine's nice, don't get me wrong. It's a really nice machine. The striping was great. It's a really good machine, but it's nowhere in comparison to the Z3. It's just not even close. So if you're really wanting a big beefy machine and something that just feels solid, man, I'd go with the Z3. So far that's winning. But if you're looking for a mower that you're just doing small residential yards in and out, and you're trying to keep the cost down, this would do just fine. It is heavy duty. It's just not as big and as beefy as a Z3. So yeah, there's the hour meter right there. And just if you want to hear it, I can start it up real quick. So, see on it on, it's the EF5, so all you gotta do is turn the key. Another thing I did notice is when you engage the parking brake on this machine, the Z3, it was solid, okay? This machine, you could not move these on the Z3. On this machine, you can move these. Okay, this one you can barely move, but you hear the whining, you can hear the transaxles trying to engage. So there you go, guys. Hope this video helps you make your decision when you're purchasing a mower. These mowers are kind of expensive, so I want, you know, for me, I'm trying to get the best possible deal I can on one. And for me, so far, the Ferris Z3 is taking it. I'm going to demo it Gravely next week, so I'll probably have a video for you then. All right, guys, like, share, subscribe. Thanks.